We have some amazing news to share with you all tomorrow, so get ready for some serious excitement. Many people are receiving $2,000 checks from the government, and guess what? You are eligible for benefits if you are among the wonderful people who currently receive Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or VA payments. We're going to get deep into this amazing upgrade in this special video. To whom specifically are these checks payable? How can you ensure that you receive yours? And after you have the extra money, what will you do with it? But there's still more. These checks are more than just pieces of paper, especially in these hard times. They're like tiny bundles of support and hope. This money is available to help, whether you need it for unforeseen expenses, to stock up on food, or simply to treat yourself to something lovely. Furthermore, let us not overlook the wider picture. When these checks are written, they aid more than simply the recipients. They also support communities across the country and the nation's economy. Everyone wins in this scenario. That implies that in the next day or two, a $2,000 payment should appear in your account if you or your spouse get Social Security Retirement Benefits, SSDI for a long-term disability, or SSI for low-income seniors or those with disabilities. The same holds true for people who get pensions or disability benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs. We are talking about immediately transferring well over $100 billion into the hands of consumers in the next week or two, given that over 64 million Americans receive benefits from one of those programs each month. This will be a huge relief for individuals who are currently struggling to make ends meet and are on fixed incomes. Recipients will be able to replenish their empty savings accounts, pay off past due obligations, or just increase their spending at stores, which will stimulate the economy tremendously. Senior administration officials have stated that the goal is to distribute this fourth tranche of payments to government beneficiaries as quickly as feasible. If receiving federal payments via direct express debit cards, the first recipients should begin receiving $2,000 direct deposits into their bank accounts. The beneficiaries of Social Security retirement and disability benefits who already have their bank account details on file with the IRS from prior stimulus payments or tax return filings will be the target of this first wave. Recipients of SSI and VA benefits who already have their current bank information on file with the federal government will get a second sizable wave of direct deposits. To those remaining eligible recipients whose information is not on file for direct deposit, paper checks will be mailed in bulk. The White House claims that checks will continue to be sent out until all beneficiaries have gotten their $2,000 payout. Social Security and SSI recipients who receive dual payments will continue to only receive $2,000 per eligible individual. There will be no double payment. So who is eligible for these new federal payments of $2,000 exactly? The Act stipulates that you have to be receiving one of the following government benefits at the moment: VA disability pension or compensation, Social Security retirement benefits, Social Security disability insurance, SSDI, or supplementary security income, SSI. There are no phase-outs or additional income restrictions. If you were paid by the VA, Social Security, SSDI, SSI, or SSI for the month of April 2024, you ought to get the entire $2,000 direct payment. Your income level should not affect this amount in any way. Recipients of SSI who also get retirement or Social Security disability benefits are the sole possible exemption. Should their total income plus the $2,000 payment above SSI's income thresholds, the $2,000 would possibly result in the person's SSI payments being reduced or eliminated. Married couples should receive two separate $2,000 payments for a total of $4,000 per household if each spouse receives one of the qualifying benefits. Many people are perplexed as to why the payout was set at $2,000 rather than, say, $600 or $1,400 as in previous rounds. It seems that growing expenses are the main cause. See, this is not just a coronavirus boost meant to counterbalance the economic effects of the epidemic. Yes, that was the thinking behind the checks for $600 in December 2020 and the $1,200 in spring 2020. However, after about 3.5 years, The impacts of COVID have significantly diminished, and a new problem, historic inflation, has surfaced. The purchasing power of fixed government subsidies has decreased due to the recent 6-7% annual pace increase in consumer prices. A $2,000 increase will assist offset growing expenses for housing, groceries, electricity, and other necessities that have grown considerably more expensive. For the average Social Security beneficiary, this is a 15% gain. There was strong pushback from numerous Republican lawmakers to limit the recipients of these stimulus packages to low-income households or connect them to their income. Ultimately, though, Democrats managed to make them fully universal, with no phase-outs for federal beneficiaries. They contended that Social Security was never intended to provide income below the poverty line, and that all Americans have been negatively harmed by the fast increasing expenditures. Politicians from both parties have responded to the possibility of depositing $2,000 checks into the bank accounts of more than 64 million Americans, as was to be expected. The record magnitude of the payments drew immediate criticism from Republican leaders, who described them as an absurd giveaway at a time when the national debt has surpassed $32 trillion. They maintained that Social Security's already precarious financial situation will only get worse, and that adding billions to stimulus payments will hasten the program's financial crisis. Among the most scathing detractors was Senator Rick Scott of Florida. What this does is take $200 billion out of Social Security and add to the already dangerous inflation. This would only burden our children and grandchildren and bring us closer to insolvency. Democrats, on the other hand, retorted that the payouts are only achieving Social Security's primary goals of promoting retirement income security and financial dignity. Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut stated, "The harshest inflation in 40 years has been scorching seniors. This increase will genuinely put food on the table for millions of poor homes." The huge payments being offered to the impoverished, aged, and disabled populations, who have been among those most negatively impacted by the unrelenting price increases, left advocacy groups ecstatic. The National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare CEO referred to it as critically important relief to prevent the innocent from falling into poverty due to no fault of their own. In agreement, the AARP stated, "These checks come at a pivotal time when millions of seniors have depleted their retirement savings just trying to cover basic necessities." Reactions from the Americans who receive the $2,000 payouts directly will probably vary depending on their financial status at the time. This will give some people who are really trying to make ends meet on their fixed benefit income a much-needed lifeline and an opportunity to pay off past due obligations. Others who are happy with their overall financial situation might use the checks for pricey new purchases like cars or home repairs, which are getting more and more expensive in current inflationary climate. Others, nevertheless, would utilize it to settle growing credit card debt brought on by the previous few years' high cost of living. One thing is evident. It adds up to $2,000 for each beneficiary, to a significant reinvestment of capital in the economy. Slightly over $140 billion is estimated by experts to be recirculated as recipients spend money on products and services. If the objective of economic stimulus is to stimulate GDP growth and increase consumer spending, then these checks should offer a welcome short-term boost. However, the long-term effects on budget deficits and the national debt are yet unknown, as is the case with any significant federal investment that is not accompanied by reductions in spending or increases in revenue. The qualified applicants have no choice but to wait for their $2,000, while the nation debates whether it is wise to distribute yet another massive batch of stimulus funds. By the end of this week, a lot of Social Security recipients might wake up to a pleasant surprise in their bank accounts, as the first significant wave of direct transfers is anticipated to begin tomorrow. In the next 1 to 2 business days, SSI and VA beneficiaries who have their banking information on file with the government agencies should also begin receiving their payments. Unfortunately, the time before the paper stimulus checks are distributed over the next few weeks will be significantly longer for people who are still getting checks via mail from Social Security, SSDI, SSI, or the VA. The checks will continue to be issued on a rolling basis until every qualified American has received their $2,000 payment, the White House assures us, so don't worry. Naturally, some recipients might want to think about using new digital banking facilities or setting up direct deposit to receive any future federal payments as quickly as possible, according to a senior administration official. Millions of households will undoubtedly benefit from the $2,000 payouts, but others are already raising questions about the long-term effects and ramifications of distributing yet another batch of sizable stimulus checks.